Thanks again for being here. My colleague Michelle Boyd and I are joined today by Jim Fong and Bruce Etter of UPCEA Center for Research and Consulting. Our topic today that we're going to be diving into is trends on how search behavior is changing and how the search landscape is changing. And we're going to give you our top direction for how you can tune your strategy for 2025 and even beyond that. So we'll do a quick introduction of our panelists. As Director of Sales and Marketing at Search Influence, I've spent the last 15 years working with organizations on their digital marketing strategies, including SEO. And today, my role is really focusing on laying the foundation for productive partnerships between our agency, Search Influence, and our new clients. So if you were to ever reach out to Search Influence, interested in working with us as an agency, I'm one of the two people that you would talk to. And I'll hand it over to Jim to introduce himself.
Thank you, Paula. And my name is Jim Fong. I'm the Chief Research Officer at UPCEA. And my role at UPCEA is to provide member-wide research, try to help institutions get one or two steps ahead of where we're going, and also work with a lot of our partners to curate new cutting-edge information. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm excited today. Prior to UPCEA, actually, I'm entering my 15th year at UPCEA as well. But prior to that, I was a very active UPCEA member when I was at Penn State, where I was tasked initially with a research department looking at new programs to move online in the late 90s to transforming a legacy-based marketing communications group into a digital communications group. And so, one of the first things we did was SEO. And obviously things have changed quite significantly. So I'm excited to be part of this. But my role today is really to give you a little bit of insight on the state of higher education, because there's a lot of flux and change that's happening, and we're at a very unique time in terms of the field of higher education. So let me hand it off to Bruce Etter now.
Awesome. Thank you, Jim. Unlike Paula and Jim, I'm only 10 years in at UPCEA, so I feel a little behind. But my name is Bruce Etter. I'm the Senior Director of Research and Consulting here at UPCEA. Really, my role with UPCEA is to manage every and all research initiative that comes into our doors, whether that's for an individual member or some of these kind of larger scale initiatives that we'll be talking about today. And with that, I'll pass it to Michelle.
Hello, everybody. My name is Michelle Boyd, and I'm right there with Bruce. I've been at Search Influence for just over 11 years, so going on 12. And I am the SEO and creative manager at Search Influence, which means I'm responsible for leading our team of SEO strategists in executing strategies that achieve our clients' goals.
Thanks, everybody. So there are three things that I want to point you to. We have a few extra ways that you can get even more out of this webinar today. So in your Zoom toolbar, you'll see three features. So the first is resources, where you can find links to our SEO research study that was conducted in conjunction with UPCEA, our SEO workbook, a link to our brand new SEO roadmap offering that we'll talk about a little bit more in depth towards the end of the webinar, as well as a blog post on how you can build a case for SEO within your university. Also, we have the chat. We'd love to hear any thoughts or feedback throughout the presentation here. If everybody wants to just drop a good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are in the chat, we'll know everybody's here. And then we have our Q&A. So feel free to put a question in Q&A anytime, and we'll either answer it live throughout the presentation at the end, or we might actually even respond in text in the Q&A section. Just a tiny bit about Search Influence. So we're a boutique SEO and digital marketing agency that's been around for almost 20 years. So we focus not only on higher ed, but other industries as well, so that we can share learnings across verticals. And we're proud to be an UPCEA Platinum Partner, a Google Premier Partner, and a certified women-owned business. And so just for being here today, you have a chance to be one of 4 winners of a $50 gift card. Our winners are going to be announced live today after Q&A, and you'll get an email from me about how to redeem your award. And now I'm going to turn it over to Jim to talk about the state of higher ed.
Alrighty. Thank you, Paula. Thank you, other panelists here. I'm going to talk about the state of higher education real briefly. We've got a lot going on here, and obviously, and I had the plan for a number of scenarios in terms of where we're going forward here, and I'm sure you have a lot of questions about it. And I think just to kind of kick things off here is that given the state of higher education, we could have gone 2 paths. obviously based on two different administrations. One administration would have taken this into a particular path that we were currently on. The other one is more disruptive. And so with that being said, I think marketing and enrollment management, digital marketing, SEO are just so much more important when we enter a time of chaos. We're going to have a lot of issues to deal with our our colleges and universities centrally. They're going to be coming under attack. I don't know if it's attack so much, maybe it is, but they're going to be faced with a lot of change in front of them. And so they're going to come to continuing online professional education for help, because we are external revenues here, and we're not directly in the path of change here. We're in the path of our own change, but there's going to be other things that are happening centrally where it's going to, we have an opportunity to positively impact a potentially disruptive situation. So the next slide I really want to talk about is that we've got a lot of challenges in front of us. While we have this next 4 years of this upcoming administration here, which is anticipated to be disruptive, especially, given what I saw yesterday regarding the potential nominee for the Department of Education, there was a silver lining in that. At least they announced somebody, and they weren't going to just totally destroy it, and which I don't think they could. I mean, a lot of you that have seen my presentations in the past know I have a very science fiction kind of love and an apocalyptic background. And I always look at what is the worst case scenario that could happen to us. And then I look for information that will dial it back and bring me back to reality. I feel like they will not destroy, obviously, the Department of Education, but they could move it into the Department of Labor. They could move it back to the states and whatsoever. There's a lot of things that could happen. And I've watched President-elect Trump's speech the other day about higher education, and he's definitely focusing in on money. He's focusing in on accreditors, DEI, and other things like that. But I also think that there's potential positive outcomes that could arise out of this regarding, our connection to credit education and 120 credits. Things may accelerate in the credential space. There's a lot of things that are going on. Regarding this slide here, one of the things that we have to do long-term as marketers and enrollment managers is that confidence in higher education has been eroding for the last half a decade. And it's been eroding probably even longer than that because tuition was going up, and it's not necessarily a guarantee in terms of employment. This has further been, multiplied in terms of the last year or two, where there's demographic differences in terms of who thinks education is good and who thinks it's not good. And I think these are some things that we're going to have to deal with. I really question the 12 to 17-year-old cohort that's going to be moving through and making decisions after high school. So I think that group is really going to be impacted about, is college and debt associated a good investment? Because I think this next generation of learners is very attuned to information. They keep up on information. They make better decisions and different decisions. Next slide, please. But in the meantime, we're going to experience people that are already in the pipeline. And we're seeing that right now. One of the things that I thought was kind of interesting is we bounced back in terms of credit enrollments. And most of it is because of community college certificate growth and also from people of color. We also had people that were returning from the pandemic who took a year off that are jumping back into colleges and universities, and older females, actually middle-aged females, in terms of this. And so we have a group that's really kind of fueling credit enrollment. However, first-time student enrollment declined. And whether or not this is a snapshot moving forward, I think we're going to see this small short-term jump in higher education, and then we're going to see some chaos happen come January in terms of the value of education. And I question whether or not students are going to sit on the sidelines, sort of like what they did after the pandemic. Next slide, please. So we have these high school students that, for the next few years, they're going to, it's going to be a pretty decent number. We have a number of students that are coming into our system here, but the next slide shows that they're not necessarily coming into it, going into college. Next slide, please. So what we actually have, and I'm sorry for the small slide here, but this is a slide of college enrollees immediately after high school graduation, and do they go into college within 9 months? That has declined pretty significantly from 70% to 62% over the last 5 years, actually almost 10 years. And so I'm anticipating as we see less and less high school students, we'll also see this number go down a little bit too. They'll sit on the sidelines potentially, which will further compound the problem of the demographic cliff. Next slide, please. So what we've actually been seeing right now is that, we've been seeing declines in higher education since 2010. In 2010, we hit our peak. We had 21 million students coming in terms of graduate education or undergraduate education. Now, we've lost over 2.5 million of them. And so, this is a challenge, I think. And I think moving forward, we have the potential, if we don't correct this through stackable credentials and other ways of learning here, this number could decrease even further. So colleges and universities are going to be challenged from a fiscal perspective. And we're seeing that where colleges and universities don't have great financial books right now, and some of them are either announcing that they're merging with other institutions, or that they're setting a timeline to close up. We're seeing 1 or 2 a month based on some of the announcements that we're seeing. So another thing that's going to compound enrollments moving forward here is the recent political environment is also likely to have this line continue to increase. One of the things that we're having here is the average age of a woman having her first child has increased pretty significantly. Over the last 10 or 15 years, it's gone from about 25 to now almost 28. And everything that I'm reading suggests that it's actually going to go higher. That we're talking about women being, on average, about 30 years of age having their first child. A lot of that is driven by economics. And when the economic outlook is suggesting that more people are going to get rich and we're going to have less of a middle class, it is likely that this number will go up because people can't afford having children. They're having pets and other things instead, and experiences instead. The other thing that's playing into this is will there be a national abortion ban? Will there be in terms of access to healthcare for women? That's actually questioning a lot of young people's beliefs in terms of whether or not when and where are they going to have their first child. And so a lot of this could also compound to delaying having kids move through our system here to become traditional college age children here. So we've got a situation that we're going to get older as a society in the US. Okay, next slide, please. So, I'm not going to read through all of this, but we've got a lot of headwinds in front of us. We have a lot of learner challenges. We have, what we learned from the election also is that young males look at college and education and information differently. So, and Bruce and I have done a lot of work which showed that young males compared to young females, or millennial males compared to millennial females, look at media differently, consume media differently, and they have different perceptions toward higher education. We also have AI coming in front of us. We have a more competitive environment. We actually have a lot more supply than we have demand at this point. And a lot of this came out of the pandemic where everybody got online and they have a lot of product. They moved it online. Yet we're actually facing a demographic cliff right now. So the adult learner could save us, but right now we're entering a time of political turmoil, and also an economy that's shifting to more automated. We're having a lot more AI discussions here. So we have a very uncertain future moving forward here, where marketers and enrollment managers are going to be valued so much more, I believe. You're going to be looked at to generate revenue. There's going to be something happening at a different part of your university, putting downward pressure on you, and then people are going to come to you and say, hey, we need more enrollments, we need more money, we need professional education, we need more certificates, we need more micro-credentials. All of these things are going to play into the work that you do. So I think that professional continuing online education, if you go to the next slide here, is going to be things like a stackable pathway will be more important. I think we'll see a lot of regulations come down regarding the legislation behind, regarding distance education and gained outcomes and whatsoever, learner outcomes. And a lot of that will be relaxed, I think, in the next administration. And I think it'll open up the door for more stackability, more non-credit to credit pathways, and other things like that. There's also been talk about, will this be American Academy evolve as well? Will it be a national academy where people can get training? So all of these things would accelerate non-credit training. So I've said a lot about where higher education is, and there's a lot of disruptive change that we're going to have to be able to be nimble. We're going to have to be able to adapt on it. And once we get a lead, or we can attract a lead, we need to nurture them through our systems, because every lead that we generate through SEO, through social media, is going to be a precious lead to us, and we can't ignore X amount of leads, or we have to convert as many leads as possible, because that's all revenue that we're going to need as an industry. So that was a lot. That was my update. Let me actually pass it along to Bruce and have him tell you what learners think.
Awesome. Thanks, Jim. I always enjoy hearing your perspective. So I'm going to talk about learners, but I'm also going to talk about marketing and enrollment management leaders as well. So Paul, yeah, we can go to the first one. This chart here, I'm guessing many of you have seen. It's from Education Dynamics 2024 online college students report. And what we see is that, if you start adding things together, 79% of online students were only considering 3 institutions or less when they started their initial search for online education. So we're looking at a small pool of potential options, right? When you ask them, what are the most important factors? Almost always the first answer is going to be affordability. And what's really surprising to me is, much to the research that UPCEA has done, you'd be surprised how many institutions don't promote, or at the very least hide quite well, the cost of some of these programs. And I would encourage everyone who's attending at this webinar today is ask yourself, is that true at my institution? Right? And the importance of this is significant, because what we see in the second chart there on the right is that after looking for what they see as important pieces of information, 2/3 only inquire to 1 or 2 institutions. And so, Jim mentioned this, but we have these limited opportunities to engage with and interact with these learners. And I'm going to do a couple of fun quotes today. In the words of Eminem, you only get one shot. So this next slide here is showing the top of the enrollment funnel. And with these limited opportunities, it's essential that we're effective in our marketing efforts. So in that same study from Etter, respondents stated that they most often begin their school selection with a Google search, right? And this really underscores the importance of search engine optimization for institutions that want to join these already small consideration sets. Paula mentioned this on the front end, but a 2023 report that UPCEA and Search Influence did together really reinforces this notion, where we saw 84% of marketing leaders that we surveyed said, yeah, SEO is definitely a core part of our marketing strategy. However, if you dig a little deeper, 51% said they don't have an established strategy as it relates to SEO. So this is a confounding or even paradoxical data point to me that really underlines the reality that many of these institutions are still operating with 2010 thought processes, though online students are starting to increase in their importance and changing their philosophies. So this next slide here shows marketing capacity, and this is from our most recent marketing study. And over the next 3 years, it's pretty clear that marketing units are going to be asked to do more, as 80% are said they're going to be targeting new segments of learners during that time frame. And while there is some belief, 37%, that agree that AI and other emerging technologies can help stretch those budgets, only 1/3 think their marketing budget is currently robust enough to meet the goals of the institutions. And the reality is, marketers don't anticipate this to change, right? 60% disagree that their marketing budget will increase year over year for the foreseeable future. And so this is the reality we find ourselves in, right? And make no mistake about it, like with marketing acting as the top of the enrollment funnel, it's going to impact our potential learners. And so we talked briefly on that last slide about potential areas for emerging technology. Paul, you can go to the next slide there. The importance of enrollment funnel data is not only understanding our current state, but also in charting our future. So a different study from UPCEA and Education Dynamics surveyed over 100 marketing and enrollment management professionals and leaders, really, within the online and professional continuing education space. And we really wanted to know, what impacts do you see AI having? And you can see on this chart, when we give them a couple of lists, or a list of potential opportunities, they cited a couple of different things. One, improving the student journey from marketing to enrolled student status. 67%, another 2/3, also say, improving conversion rates, and 62% said personalized student experiences. And to me, all 3 of these opportunities really represent the same theme, which is developing a student-centric enrollment funnel. And so what is the current state of these funnels? Well, most institutions, we can see here, 80% use a request for information, or RFI form, as a way to have prospective students inquire about their programs. And among those who are using them, nearly 3/4, 72%, agree or strongly agree that their unit's RFI form is built in a way that meets the needs of adult learners. So I really want you to keep that percentage in mind, especially as we go through these next couple of slides. Additionally, over half, 54%, agree that their unit is able to make decisions, strategic decisions, that is, from the data gained from the inquiries that are made and from their forms. So I ask you, if we're not able to make strategic decisions from our RFI forms, why include some of those questions? And what pieces of information are inquirers actually willing to share on their initial contact with the institution? And so to try to get at some of this, we developed what we call the readiness index. Internally, we lovingly refer to it as the creepiness index. And what it is it is a view of 100 different UPCEA members at random, and we analyzed their RFI forms. And each institution was assigned a grading score based on the number of questions on their form and the types of questions. So essentially, were these essential questions, things needed to get back, like a first name and an email? Were they more nice to have information, so like demographics? Or were they excessive? Some of the questions you'll find on RFI forms are quite interesting, like family education history. Uh, I don't know if that's necessary on the first contact. And you can see a more detailed methodology in that report itself, but the average score was 80.65. So only 17% of institutions had a score that was above 90, which we call the acceptable range, right? And 42% receive a below average score. And so there's a disconnect here in the process. Remember, 72% said their forms are built in a way to meet adult learners. And yet this is the kind of thing that we're seeing. And does it vary by credential type? The answer is yes. And I just saw a question come in from, I believe, from Kat. Yeah, well, ask for the birthday. I too find that creepy. So this chart on the left-hand side is from a study that we wrapped up with Straighterline, which is around the some college, no credential population. And the chart on the right-hand side is a study that UPCEA wrapped up with Collegius that talks about the post-bac audience. So essentially folks who are going to be going after graduate certificates and graduate degrees. And what we can see is that through both of these studies, the data points are quite clear. Individuals are really only willing to provide, on average, first name, last name, and email to the institution on that initial contact. I know a lot of institutions rely pretty heavily on phone numbers, and I think that there's a way to get there. But what we can see here is that only 63% of the some college no credential population and 68% of the post-bac population are willing to provide that initial contact. So really what this says to me is that our forms are indeed built around institutions and not around learners. We need to build trust before we start asking for some of these questions. And so if we are building our forms currently around institutions, surely we're doing an excellent job responding to inquiries, right? Well, the answer is not really. So what we can see here on this chart is another exercise that UPCEA embarked on in partnership with Inside Track, where we sent 1,000 inquiries. So we posted students to 1,000 different times. We picked 200 member institutions and sent 5 inquiries to each of them to try and diversify our response rate. And what we see is the average response time was 7 hours and 22 minutes, which is okay, not great, not terrible, but that's inflated, right? When we look at the median, that's 3 hours and 3 minutes. To me, that's pretty darn good. However, there is a damning data point on this slide, and it is on the right-hand side where it said 60% received a response. That means 4 out of 10 inquiries did not receive a non-animated response from the institution, right? So all of the work that we did laying the foundation through SEO, all of the nurturing to get this person here, and they say, hey, I want to learn more about this. And we say, we're not going to respond, right? And so all of this is incredibly important. We know the adult learner shops around to a small sample set, and if this is our response rate, that's going to lead them elsewhere. And really why I talk about this is because so much of this is foundational, but truly to get folks into this point, it's a lot of marketing functions like SEO. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Paula to talk a little bit more about how SEO truly is the foundation of the enrollment funnel.
Thank you so much for that lead up, Jim and Bruce. So you might be thinking, what are we going to do now? Things beyond our control are happening, both in the political climate and in technology. So by having a strong SEO plan in place, your marketing will withstand these external changes that could have an impact on your inquiry flow. Search engine optimization is a marketing strategy that is stable and foundational. Learners will always search online for answers. And what we're talking about today are some of the ways some of the changes to the ways that people are searching and some of the changes to the way that the results are displayed. And like I said before, how you can adjust your strategy to keep up with these trends so that you're going to be found no matter what search looks like into the future. Let's talk a little bit about why SEO is important to your goals. So SEO is the foundation of your marketing strategy. Of course, SEO helps learners find your site on search engines, which is a crucial part of every stage of the marketing funnel. But in addition to that, one of the overlooked benefits of SEO is that SEO improves the learner's experience on your website so that they can find what they need. No matter if they learn about you from advertising, email, social media, a conference, or search, when they go to your website, they're landing on their website no matter where they're coming from. And so they're either going to your website to convert or not to convert. So if you're improving your website overall and you're improving your visibility in search engines with SEO, it's really a no-brainer that you should be spending some time there. So here are 3 examples of how SEO tactics fuel the learner website experience. One is program pages, which provide the information that learners need to qualify themselves for your programs. The second are blog posts, which will answer questions that learners have about how this program or degree helps their career. And the third example are videos that can help a prospect see themselves as a student of your school. So all 3 of these things are typically done as part of your general marketing, but they're also improved through a really good search engine optimization strategy. And overall, each of these things helps the learner take that next step in their journey and is ultimately going to help them convert. And then hopefully, to Bruce's point, you're responding to them quickly. So where are learners searching? They're on search engines, they're on social media, and they're on AI search engines like ChatGPT. So not that long ago, think back a few years, there was just one path for somebody to research something online. That was search engines. And they are, of course, still dominant. But there are 2 emerging trends that we really need to be ready for because they're really, truly here and they're growing. So as of May 2023, and this is a year and a half old, I'm going to show you the trend and how this changes. So as of May 2023, 31% of people reported searching on social media for answers to questions, and just 12% used AI search like ChatGPT. And at that time, ChatGPT was really just about 6 months old. As of 2024, HubSpot reports that 1 in 3 are using AI for search, and they're starting to trust those AI answers more. So a year and a half ago, 12% of people using AI like ChatGPT. Now about 33% are using AI like ChatGPT. So it's a pretty big change in just a year and a half in terms of, a big change in the way people are searching. So the same May 2023 study showed that about 15% of people prefer searching on social media over search engines. And Gen Z and millennials were more likely to prefer social media to search. So around 30% of these 2 generations say they prefer to search on social media over search engines. What makes this truly notable as a trend is now in 2024, the percentage of all generations that prefer to search on social media increased from 15% to 21%. So this is a growing trend of people preferring to search on social media. So what this means for you is that your definition of search engine optimization is broadening. And there are really 3 places that we need to be thinking about search: traditional search engines, social media, and AI search engines. And of course, there's a big overlap now in the fact that traditional search engines like Google include AI results. And that's a really big part of what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to touch on all 3 of these, like I said, going into some of the changes that we see in the landscape so that you can better understand what your learners are seeing and ultimately how you can be better discovered on all of those places.
All right. So as Paula mentioned, there's been a lot of chatter out there about AI, and you have likely attended some webinars specifically talking about it. What you probably are hearing is more about how AI helps you execute marketing. So it might be about how you can use AI for writing or creating graphics or videos. But what isn't talked about enough really is how AI search results are impacting how students find your school and look for information specifically about your school's offerings and admissions process. So today we are going to talk about these 3 heavy hitters with a primary focus on AI overviews in Google search results. So what are AI overviews? To better understand AI overviews, you first have to understand why Google even created them. Their mission has always been to make it easier to find the information you're looking for, or more specifically, when you look at this AI overview, it's to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. So as you can see here with this screenshot, for searches that result in an AI overview, they often are the first thing that you're seeing. But let's take a closer look at the anatomy of an AI overview. Google's serving up the answer to your question, or in this screenshot example, it's a presumed question. And they are highlighting it to make it easier for you to find that answer. As you might already know, Google puts a lot of emphasis on the importance of what they call EEAT, which stands for experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. So you'll see these clickable sources for these AI overviews are pulled out off to the right here. If you're curious which sources cover what information specifically from the overview, you can also click on the link icons to see the sources cited per fact. Now, keep in mind, these AI overviews are constantly changing. In fact, just the other day, when I was going to try to grab some screenshots of great examples for you all, our team actually saw glimpses of a potential rollout they're testing to make these overviews even more interactive. And what we're seeing is that they're allowing you potentially to highlight text and get an AI-generated explanation for your selected text. What might be pretty obvious, given how much space these overviews take up on the screen, is that they are pushing down the traditional organic search results or your school's organic listing. So even if you're ranking organically in the top 5, it takes quite a bit of scrolling to get down to your school's listing or your search result. As a matter of fact, according to a study conducted by Sierra Interactive, organic click-through rate, which is the percentage of clicks that your university receives organically in search results, declines about 70% when an AI overview is present in the results. So when looking at the results for a search term that does not generate an AI overview, organic click-through rate trends around 2.94%. However, when there is an AI overview present, organic click-through rate goes down to more like 0.84%. So that's a pretty big difference. But not all of that organic traffic goes away completely with AI overviews present. Yes, for sure, some people will find the answer to what they're looking for directly there in the search results now with AI overviews, and then they're not going to click through any further. But Sierra also found that organic click-through rate increases to 1.08% when you are included as an AI overview source. So when are there AI overviews is something you might be asking. Let's take a look at the funnel. So informational intent keywords trigger an AI overview 99.2% of the time. So thinking about this funnel, these are the keywords that are going to be in the awareness stage. Some examples of those sorts of keywords or key phrases are things like, why pursue an MBA? Or what are benefits of an MBA? However, on the flip side, AI overviews only have a 10% chance of showing for commercial and transactional keywords, which fall in the consideration and decision stages of the funnel. So here are the keywords that are like best online MBA programs or online MBA programs ranked or Tufts University college application. So you might be thinking, what about these other AI search options that you were talking about earlier? Like ChatGPT, or you might have heard of Perplexity is another example. Well, Perplexity, like you see with Google search results, does provide you with sources that are clickable. So it's still possible to get some referral traffic in through here if you're optimizing your content accordingly. ChatGPT, on the other hand, does not include sources on its free version, but it does include them with the paid version. And as with many other areas of marketing, it's great to start with strong SEO fundamentals here as well. One thing to note with the AI platform specifically, though, is they tend to favor more conversational and natural language phrases. So they're leveraging something you might have heard called NLP, or natural language processing. So it's really important that you optimize your content in a way that mimics human speech patterns. So there's a lot of information, and you might be thinking, what are we supposed to focus on here? What does this even mean for us? First, if you are not already, prioritize optimizing your commercial and transactional keywords on the appropriate pages. So look at keywords or key phrases like coding certification online or online programs ranked. And remember that commercial or transactional keywords only have a 10% chance of generating an AI overview. So that means that the click-through rates are likely higher for these types of searches. Next, you want to evaluate your search phrase competition. So how competitive the search phrase is and how well you are ranking right now. If you're ranking relatively well and the search phrase does not have a lot of competition, it would definitely be reasonable to think that you might be able to do some optimizations to the content of your page and potentially grab a spot as an AI overview source. Just like with typical SEO, you start with the low-hanging fruit that's more realistic. So for example, here the search phrase is, what is a computer systems analyst? It would be reasonable to think that with a few additional optimizations, Purdue Global could grab a spot as an AI overview source. Here you see they're ranking 4th organically, and yet someone ranking in the 6th spot is listed as a source. So it'd be worthwhile to do a deeper dive and see what these 3 sources might be doing right or better than Purdue Global to answer this question. You also want to think about search intent when developing your content. So for example, how to become a CFO. The intent here is informational. You'll see in the screenshot there that's pulled from SEMrush, and that box might be a little hard to see, but it is flagged as informational. For informational searches, the user is looking to find an answer to a specific question. So Google's results for informational searches tend to include things like articles or videos and guides that provide information on the topic that's being searched for. So in this example off to the right here, Maryville University, who, by the way, if you do a search for it, is listed as a source for the AI overview for this search, they appropriately formatted their content in the form of a step-by-step guide. You'll also want to develop question-based content. We have already determined, obviously, that Google is looking to help answer people's questions, even the presumed questions that they think people are asking. So your next step should be to develop content that answers those questions. Some examples of how and where you might do this are do a Google search for the root term and then look to see what you get back. So looking at our last example that I talked about previously, if you take out the root, which is CFO, and start with that, some of the questions that come back and the people also ask are really great. And you even see the question that we search for here underneath the things to know at the bottom. Then, of course, like we talked about already, remember to look at search intent because informational searches tend to include articles, videos, guides, or even frequently asked questions. So you want to keep that in mind. And then, of course, you need to make your content digestible. This might be something that you're already a little bit familiar with, but you can do this by structuring your content with clear headings, subheadings, bullet points, and make your paragraph short. This example does not have the best examples for heading optimization, but they do get bonus points for having good structure overall and leveraging internal links, and then also for using schema. Schema is really great for relevant types of content like FAQ pages, which is what this example is about. So it helps crawlers to understand the information a little bit easier, and then it can also improve visibility for rich snippets in search results.
Thank you for that, Michelle. So now's a good time to call out one of the resources that we have available in the Zoom resources, which is our SEO workbook. It walks you through a process to come up with 3 months of SEO tactics that match a lot of our principles. Some of what Michelle talked about today is so new that it's not actually represented in the workbook, but you would apply these ideas to the tactics that you actually develop through the workbook, which is really an awesome tool for both beginners and more advanced marketers who are looking to freshen up their SEO strategy. So after AI, the second major SEO trend to consider for 2025 is social search. And there are really two sides of social search. The first is when learners discover your content when searching on social media platforms. And the other side is when learners discover your social media content on Google search results. I'm going to go into both of these. So when it comes to searching on social, as I reviewed earlier, there is a subset of the population who prefers to search on social media over search engines, and that is growing. Now, like I said, search engines are still quite dominant, but there is this trend on social media. So for the search best project management courses on TikTok, we see a typical video post that is best 3 project management courses. And then what's that right above it? We have an AI-driven search highlight that summarizes what TikTok's AI engine sees in the videos on their platform. And then below this text content, you get that one hero video that I mentioned before, and then you get several more as you scroll down the page. On Reddit, which is also considered a social media site, you get several discussions relevant to your search where learners can get multiple points of view, which is something, that's what a lot of people appreciate about social media in general, is the authenticity and the fact that you're getting raw feedback from individuals, whether it's a video or text content. And when you go to a Reddit post, you're going to get lots and lots of multiple points of view on one particular topic. On Instagram, for the search leadership management courses, searchers see a variety of visual results. So you'll see, very familiar, typical static post advertising courses. You'll also see people-focused reels and informational posts, including examples that break down topics you might normally see in a blog post. Then on the right, for the search best project management courses, you'll see a mix of some of the similar things, but there's a little bit more of a promotional bent. None of this content is that incredibly compelling, but it's still visible for a pretty valuable search, which shows there's a lot of opportunity if you can answer these questions really well on social media to be a strong player here. Another thing I really think is important to understand is how the platforms are emphasizing AI and emphasizing these new tools when individuals are doing different searches and just simply going about their day using these platforms. So when I did the search for best project management courses on Instagram, Meta AI gave me a suggested AI search of what are the best project management courses. And when you click their AI suggestion, it pops you over to Meta's AI chatbot, which is powered currently by both Bing and Google search engines. We can expect Meta to continue to put their AI tool and search in front of users more and more. And one of the real proof points of this is the fact that Meta is investing heavily in search and AI. And so reports in just the last 3 weeks say that Meta is looking to develop their own search engine, which would be a gigantic undertaking, but it's believed that it might be worth the investment because not only would it fuel just regular old search on their platform, it could also fuel their AI data to make their AI better and better. So Meta already trains its AI on posts on Facebook and Instagram. So when you publish your content on their platforms, you're really giving yourself a chance to be found through those Meta AI searches. And so this is a huge signal that building content on Meta's platforms, Facebook and Instagram, could pay off big in the future if more and more learners shift their search attention to social, and as the platforms really encourage people to do those searches there, which ultimately, if people can find good answers, they will continue to go back to social media as search engines. Now to the other side of social search, which is the prevalence of social media content ranking on Google. This is something that you can really use to your benefit to support your search visibility. So Google has always loved big brand websites. And in the last year or so, we've seen even more amplification of social sites in the traditional rankings in Google search results. So this includes LinkedIn, Facebook, and especially sites like Reddit, Quora, and YouTube. Now, Google, of course, owns YouTube, so it's not surprising that they are often trying to get more people over to YouTube. But these sites, Reddit, Quora, YouTube, while they aren't the sites you typically think of as social, they really have huge audiences and Google loves them. And so you can drive more traffic to yourself by posting content to those places. And so in this example for project management, you see those the three platforms I just mentioned all over the results. In this example on the left, you can see a LinkedIn article holding the #2 result on Google. And then on the right, you can see another example of Google suggesting discussions and forums as its own little section in the search results. So that is showing how valuable Google really sees this type of content. And all of that is typically fueled by searchers and what they're actually clicking on. So where do you start with this? Where do you start to capitalize on the shift that we've seen with social? The most efficient way to get started is by repurposing content that you already have on social media. We hear from a lot of universities that they're strapped for resources. And so one of the easiest things you can do is simply republishing any videos that you have from your site. Number one, make sure they're on your site, and republishing those to different social media platforms, including YouTube. Then you can consider writing and publishing articles on LinkedIn. This is a relatively low lift since it is text content, and your LinkedIn article can actually rank on Google for keywords that you care about. Next, you can take the great blog content that you're already creating for your site, turn that into videos and publish that on social media. And finally, this is a bit of a heavier lift, which is considering creating video overviews of your program page info. So what are the top things that you want prospects to know about your programs when they're doing that search? And so on your website, you're delivering it to them a very classic format. It's a web page. Somebody's to scroll down the page to view it. What's a way that you can offer that same information through a really engaging video on social media? So here's just a few examples of that kind of work. So first we have Tulane SOPA publishing their webinars to YouTube. Then we have UMN CCAPs creating social posts of blog content. This is a video that actually scrolls through the top 7 reasons why why a career in IT gives you job security. And then finally, on the right, we have an example from University of Maryland Global Campus publishing articles on LinkedIn. And the second thing that I want you to think about is to encourage you to do is to expand your definition of social. I see a chat from Monique who said the CCAPS video is mine. Yes, I love that. I went mining your Instagram to find some good examples, and it really is a great one. And there's a lot that you can do on all of these websites to be more visible on the social site itself that will potentially then be visible on a Google search. All right, so I want to give you a recap of our tips today, but let's first do just one slide on an overview of the foundations of an SEO strategy. So what does a good SEO strategy look like? The first thing to do is to identify your keywords for each offering. And this kind of brings in Michelle's tip, is to really understand what the search landscape looks like for each of those keywords that you select. Then create a content plan for each of those keywords, which includes program content, course content, and blog posts. Next, your strategy should include building links to key pages. So what existing efforts like PR could you leverage that might not even be like that much of more of a lift for you? You also want to assure that you have a cadence for monitoring site errors, as those can really pop up sporadically. Now, when you go into an SEO tool, you're going to find lots of things about site errors. Some of them are important, some of them are not. And finally, and certainly last but not least, is how will you monitor and report on your SEO success? You need to understand what metrics are most important to whom, and to whom you report on those metrics and how often. And so this is the blueprint that we go over in that SEO workbook that I mentioned earlier that's in the resources section. Now to recap specifically what we talked about today. So the first is optimizing for commercial and transactional keywords. The second is evaluating search phrase competition for AI overviews. Can you realistically be included? It's quite possible that you can, as a university, be one of those sources if you can look to see what the best sites that are currently ranking are doing and mimic that and make it a little bit better. Number 3 is writing for search intent. Number 4 is developing question-based content. Don't forget those people also ask. It's the best tool to see what the questions people are actually asking and what questions you should answer on your site. Number 5 is making that content digestible and republishing content across social media and broadening your definition of social media platforms. All right, so before we get into QA, I just want to mention the SEO roadmap. This is a brand new offering that we just launched specifically for universities. The roadmap is really ideal for higher ed marketers who want some help revving up their SEO engine, to get with that roadmap analogy. So the roadmap gets you started on your SEO journey with expert support and direction from our team that will save your team time and deliver results faster. So it includes 3 months of recommended tactics for 1 degree or program, and we have dedicated time to review it with you and consult on any questions you have about it, as well as any other questions about SEO. And we launched this just 10 days ago when we had a university sign up within 3 hours of it going live. They were really thankful for the fact that we have this snackable way to get SEO support. And so you can sign up totally online for the service, and you can visit bit.ly/SI roadmap or click the link in the resources section. All righty, so time for a little bit of Q&A. So we have a question about question-based content. So for using question-based content, should we write in first person, since many users search with first person wording? So what jobs can I get with a computer science degree? I would say yes, but I will turn it to Michelle to give you a more contextual answer.
I think you can. Honestly, I think you could go either way though. Typically, I feel like the answers to Q&A questions or FAQ questions on websites are in second person. But really, I think either honestly rank. So I wouldn't say that it matters too much. Just err on the side of consistency.
Melanie asks, what's the best way to find keywords to help build the SEO strategy?
That's a great question, Melanie. I would say the first thing you need to do is start just thinking about like the root keywords. What are the product offerings? What are the things that people are searching? And then there's a lot of tools out there that you can use that help to expand upon that. And so from there, you want to look at your expanded list and take a look at the volume for those keywords and the difficulty to rank for them. And then the last thing that I always recommend before you actually map any of those keywords to your web pages is to look at search intent and think about, is it the most appropriate term for that type of content? One of the best ways to do that, in all honesty, is doing a search for the keyword itself and seeing what types of results come back to make sure that you're putting in on the right kind of page.
Thank you, Michelle. Do we have any other questions? Let's see, one question came in through the chat. Let's say in the section about AI overviews, we said that commercial and transactional keywords reduce the likelihood of getting chosen in an AI overview. Then in the last section, you listed optimizing for commercial and transactional keywords as part of the SEO strategy. Please clarify. Okay, so the point that we made about commercial and transactional keywords is that they're less likely to show an AI overview at the top, which means that the organic results are going to be more prevalent, and therefore you will still get the same amount of traffic that you would have prior ranking highly on those. So it's great to focus on those transactional and commercial keywords because of the fact that the traditional organic listings currently still have more prominence. Let's see, Angie said, is it best to use a university account or personal accounts or both in tandem? Is that in relation to social media, Angie, or the website? On social media. Really, okay, university accounts would be the default. If there are individuals that you can build up as influencers for your university effectively, or thought leaders like within the professors, that can go a long, long way. Individuals are often prioritized in social media results, whether that is search results or just simply in the algorithm as people are using the platform and scrolling through. And so individuals and videos with individuals in particular are often the like best performing content. All right, we've got a couple more in the Q&A. So I have noticed that guest writers tend to get better ranked on search engines. Is it wise to invest in such writers? I think that that's a question of like, it depends. So it really depends on the quality of those guest writers. Do they have some kind of special credential that's making it that they are ranking better? Is what they're writing about better optimized? I think there's a lot of different things at play there that the answer is really, it depends. All right, and then last question that we'll take so that we can announce our winners before we sign off is, you talked about a movement towards conversational content. Do you foresee it being a total shift from keyword-centric content to primarily conversational written content? And Michelle.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a hard question. I would say we're going to definitely see a trend towards more of that, but I don't think that you're ever going to go away completely from, using your head terms and searches that are less conversational in certain spaces. So I think for right now, for sure, I would say, focus on balancing both, and making sure that you're generating both types of content.
Cool. Thank you, Michelle. All right, awesome. Thanks everybody so much for all of the engagement and all of the Q&A. We really appreciate it. I want to announce the winners of our $50 gift cards. So Angie Rushman from University of Nebraska-Lincoln, Carmen Aguilar from Brandeis University, Kat Schmidt from University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and David Hill from University of South Florida. So please keep an eye out for an email from me with how to redeem your $50 reward online. And please let us know if you have any questions at all. pfrench@searchinfluence.com if you want to chat about anything we talked about today. Have an awesome day, everybody.
Thanks all.